Next man up, 1025 The Game. Happy Tuesday, Nashville. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Usually a Tony Tuesday, but Nick Frazier is down in Key West. Apparently has turned into a stand-up comedian. So no Nick Frazier today. It'll just be us. We'll talk plenty of college football as the CFP rankings come out later tonight. We'll see how far Vandy rises after their win against Auburn. Both teams immediately ahead of them losing, so should slide up a few spots. And we'll also get into the Titans today as well. Darren Ambrose from Vanderbilt Soccer will join us at 10:30 as his team SEC champions and a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. Parker, what's going on?
What's up, Jake? So I have a question for
Yeah.
you, and just legitimate. If you were to do stand-up comedy, would you bomb?
Oh, for sure.
You'd bomb.
I believe in my ability to write jokes that I think would be kind of funny. Like, I think if you gave me enough time, I could write a set. I don't know if I could deliver it, right? Like, there is an art to the way you tell these jokes and
Like the timing.
right? Like the timing of it and the way you deliver the punchlines. I don't know if I have that in me. I feel like I would rush everything, a little bit of that nervous energy. I hope there's a video. Apparently, Chase Big Joe and Nick Frazier all did stand up in Key West last night. So I want a video of their sets to see how they went. But yeah, I would not be good at stand up comedy. Do you think you could do it?
So I think everybody bombs on their first time. I think I would bomb
Right.
my first time. I think maybe I could get a couple laughs, but I think I'm going to bomb my first time. I would do it. Like, I don't think I would be too embarrassed. So,
Yeah.
because it is my first time. I would try it. I would definitely try it.
I would give it a try. I would probably need a little bit of liquid confidence to get me going in there, but yeah, I would give it a shot. I don't think it would go over very well, but yeah, Nick Frazier will be back on with us next Tuesday for his usual Tony Tuesday spot. The rest of the week going to be great. Corey Curtis on Wednesday, Teron Davenport Thursday, and then we'll have Max Hers leading into Preds coverage from Sweden on Friday. So excited for the rest of the week. But today, just us again, and plenty to talk about. Last night, do want to give a shout out. Vandy women's basketball improving to 2-0. It was a fun night over there. 96-48 the final score over Furman. Vandy took care of business. 6 players in double figures, which is important. Depth has been, a question mark heading into this year. You got Michaela Blakes at the top. You got some other options, but could you get enough depth? 6 players scored 10 or more last night. So nice win over Furman. Commodores back in action tomorrow night in Clarksville to take on Austin Peay. So I will do the show from here and then make my way up there to Clarksville at F&M Bank Arena to see the Doors take on the Govs. Last night, our big-time NFC clash on Monday Night Football didn't quite live up to the hype.
It did if you were a defensive
I guess
fan.
that's true. If you're a fan of defensive football, sure, but no points in the first half was disappointing. I didn't get to watch much of the game because I was over there at Memorial Gym, but I tried to catch up as much as I could. It turned into Raiders and Broncos from Thursday night. I mean, 10-7 was the final in both of those games. It was an important win for the Eagles, because now you have that tiebreaker on the Packers if it comes down to it at the end of the year. The Eagles did just enough to get the win. Jalen Hurts hooking up with Devontae Smith for the touchdown. Brandon McManus comes up short on a 64-yard field goal that could have tied the game at the end. But overall, not a super exciting game, but it could be important down the stretch. And you start to wonder with this Packers team, though, do they have the firepower to compete when they get to the playoffs? Because this isn't the first time that they've laid an egg offensively. You look back at the Browns game that they lost. I mean, Cleveland has only won 2 games, and they just lost to the Jets. They beat the Packers in Lambeau, right? Early in the season.
Yeah.
And then they lost to the Panthers, too, who just lost to the 1-win Saints. I know the transitive property isn't always the best way to view these teams, but the Packers have some bad losses on their resume, and they have times when that offense just completely, goes into its shell. Matt LaFleur's got some things to figure out the rest of the way if they're going to find themselves deep into the playoffs. I did see a tweet yesterday that Matt LaFleur is coaching for his job the rest of the season.
which is silly.
I don't see that. Like the NFL, if you're putting your team in position to compete for a playoff spot every year, you're not going to get fired. At least not immediately. Like, this isn't like James Franklin at Penn State where it's like, oh, he can't get over the top. Like, it's the NFL. Matt LaFleur is going to get another chance. He's not going to get fired for making the playoffs. Right now, they're still leading the division, I believe. So
No, they
they
fell
fell
to the
out?
7th. So
Oh,
they
wow.
get the
So
last wild card.
right.
The Bears jumped them.
That NFC North going to be interesting the rest of the way.
Yep.
I mean, Chicago continuously finds themselves in bad situations, but finds a way to win down the stretch. So the Packers have some work to do, but I really don't see Matt LaFleur getting fired. We're going to go through in this first hour all of the jobs that could open up around the NFL, and I do not have the Packers as one of them. Matt LaFleur, I think, has, proven himself enough over the last 5 to 6 years that one maybe underwhelming season offensively isn't going to be enough to end his time in Green Bay.
Yeah, no, maybe if you ask Robbie Stanley, you'd get a different answer. But I think Matt LaFleur is safe. There's no question.
Speaking of Robbie Stanley, he just left and he texted me 100% coaching for his job. I don't believe that.
See, I knew it.
All right, well, I will say this: if they lose out or something like that, then maybe. But if they get into the playoffs or, are a 10-win team, I don't see them firing the head coach.
They do have some things to get figured out because they're very hot and cold. Like
right.
they were when they got Micah Parsons, everyone was like Super Bowl or bust for the Packers. But they've been so hot and cold, and that's got to get figured out.
Well, I mean, you look, they've got the Giants next week. Maybe the Giants get the interim coach bump. Brian Daboll fired yesterday. And then you've got 3 straight big division games. And maybe my tune will change on whether Matt LaFleur is coaching for his job based on what happens in weeks 12, 13, and 14. You play the Vikings next Sunday, not this upcoming Sunday, the one after. That is at Lambeau Field. Then you go to Detroit for a Thanksgiving game. Then you play Chicago at home.
That'll be good.
Like those 3 games, yes, if the Packers go 0-3 and fall out of playoff contention, then maybe you start to have that conversation. But the way Matt LaFleur has led this team, they've gone to the NFC Championship game. They're consistently in the playoff conversation. I don't see them firing him. But
I don't either. Don't see it.
The schedule is a little bit tough. You've got the Bears twice. You've got the Vikings twice, which divisional games, you never know. And then you've also got the Broncos and Ravens, who are both going to be playing for playoff spots in the AFC. Robbie has expanded on why he thinks Matt LaFleur is coaching for his job. And this is an important point, I guess. He says that he doesn't have a contract extension beyond next year. They'll either extend him after this year or he's fired. Will not be lame duck. If they don't win in the playoffs, he will be fired. They've been in the playoffs and a 10-win team. It's not good enough. I'm telling you, firing him is on the table. All right. Well, okay. I will take our resident Packers fan and his word for it. We also have Chip from Mount Juliet on the text line who says he's a Packer fan. He says, we are sick of LaFleur. LaFleur chokes in big games and playoffs. Don't need that. And
we also have a Packers fan back here who's saying the same thing. So maybe we don't have as good a read on the situation.
I guess that's true. Maybe this is the situation of like when the national media and casual NFL fans were like, why were the Titans firing Mike Vrabel? And all Titans fans are like, because he's sucked the last 2 years. And I guess unless you're on the inside, maybe you don't know. But from the outside, I didn't see it. But I don't get it. Brandon Hermitage also says a lifelong Packer fan. Man, all the Packers fans chiming in.
Okay, we were just wrong. We were wrong.
He says
I guess
the
Matt
Packers
LaFleur is coaching for his job this year.
Okay. If the Packers fans are saying this, then I guess that's the sentiment up in Green Bay too. So I wouldn't fire him, but I guess I don't have the inside knowledge of most of these Packers fans who basically are all saying that LaFleur needs to go. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. So maybe I need to adjust these next couple segments because we're going to talk about all of the jobs that could open up around the NFL and where the Titans might stack up, because that is important. There's always a finite number of good head coaching candidates who are out there on the market. You're not always going to be able to find a great coach out there. That's why there are so many one and done guys in the NFL. So, what jobs could open up? We saw another one officially open up yesterday as the Giants fired Brian Daboll. How do the Titans stack up against the Giants and some other possible teams? I've got 7 other ones that I'm looking at. And I guess I should add an 8th because Packers fans are done with Matt LaFleur. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We are off and running on this Tuesday morning. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 the game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Talking about the game last night, Eagles and Packers, and mentioned that I saw Matt LaFleur coaching for his job was a headline after last night's loss for Green Bay. And I thought that was crazy, but Robbie Stanley, our resident Packers fan here at 1025, and pretty much everybody on our text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, is a Packers fan as well. And they all say that LaFleur should be gone. 1165 says, hey, another Packer fan here. Yeah, he either gives up play calling or he gets fired. We got 2765 says, give me LaFleur. And we're going to get into all the possible openings, but if the Packers did fire LaFleur, would that be somebody you'd be interested in bringing in for the Titans?
So I'm thinking about this right now, actually, and they're talking about it on First Take. What's wrong with the Packers offense?
Right.
And I'm thinking about it because Jordan Love's a really good quarterback. Josh Jacobs is in his prime. You have a superstar tight end. They do receiver by committee. They don't have that superstar receiver, but that can work because the Bills do it. But you just got to have the right play caller to do it.
Right.
And I know also they've had issues with their offensive line, the injuries and stuff. And they finally had everybody healthy last night, but then they lost their center, Elgton Jenkins, or however you say his first name. And then I think they lost somebody else too. But I guess that does, at the end of the day, reflect on the play caller because the defense has been solid under
and
Hafley.
Jeff Hafley might end up being a head coach somewhere after this year, former Boston College head coach.
When you have the collective talent, but you don't get the output, that does reflect on the coaching. Now that I think about it, so I just had to kind of voice my thoughts.
Well, it's just like, I think it is the same thing as when Vrabel got fired in Tennessee. The people on the outside don't see everything that's going on. They just know the reputation of the head coach, which for Vrabel, the reputation was, oh, he was the head coach of the year 2 years ago. And he was able to be the 1 seed with the most players on IR in NFL history, like all that stuff. That's what people remember about Vrabel. And they didn't remember, oh, he went 6-18 his last 24 games with the Titans. Like that's what all of us saw watching it up close. So I understand Packers fans' frustration that maybe I haven't seen. Brandon Hermitage says, what's Matt's winning percentage? Matt isn't the problem. That's kind of my point, is the grass isn't always greener. We've learned that here in Nashville. You got rid of Vrabel, and we all kind of understood it at the time, but now hindsight's 2020. It's like, man, you can't always find an upgrade even when you decide to move on from a guy who was struggling towards the end of his tenure here.
That was the issue with the James Franklin firing for me because, okay, you fire him, but he was the in terms of active head coaches, he was 5th in wins.
Right.
Who are you going to go out and get? I understand the expectation this year was national championship, and clearly after the Oregon loss, things went off the rails. But next year, Penn State doesn't have the recruits coming in. The team is going to take a step back regardless next year with or without Franklin. So they're already not going to be in a good position. Who are you going to go out and get that's been better than what Franklin has been?
Right. For Penn State, the issue was, oh, he can't win the big game. Well, can you get to the big game with somebody else? That's the question. And their first 2 candidates that were being tossed around, Kurt Signetti, Matt Rule, both have signed extensions. So you wonder where Penn State's going to go. I think the Packers might be in a similar situation if you get rid of Matt LaFleur. I wouldn't hate that if the Titans entertained bringing him back. Now, would he want to come back? He was only here for 1 year. It was not a great situation. That was the year that Marcus had the nerve damage in his arm and barely could throw the football. So I don't know if it would end up working out, but Matt LaFleur getting fired, yes, it adds another opening to compete with you for head coaching candidates, but it also adds a guy who's a proven head coach who has developed quarterbacks before. I'd be interested to see if the Titans kick the tires on LaFleur if he does get let go from Green Bay. Brian Daboll was fired yesterday, and I think it's a little surprising considering that they pretty much let him pick the quarterback. I don't know if you have seen the clip that's circulating around social media, Parker, of when they were making the decision to trade up and draft Jackson Dart, and Joe Shane is kind of talking through it, and he's going, you love him. You went through the process to Brian Daboll. You're convicted in him. So basically saying like, hey, this is Daboll's guy. And now you fire him 10 games into his rookie season. I get it. He's been bad, and Dayball has not lived up to the expectations you had when you brought him over from Buffalo. But it's strange timing, and the Giants did stand behind Joe Shane yesterday, which surprised me as well. They said that he's built a solid young nucleus of talent and that he's going to stick around despite, the pie in the face that he got on Hard Knocks last year. So the Giants, it's a strange situation right now. And I think when you stack up the Titans and Giants jobs, there's a lot of different factors to it. I think if you look at ownership, for sure, the Giants have a more stable ownership group with the Mara family. And I do wonder, though, do you want to go into that situation with Joe Shane, who, even though they stood behind him now, I would say he is a couple bad decisions away from probably getting the axe as well.
It's mind-boggling that he's even been able to stick around this long, because if
Right.
you watch the Hard Knocks offseason, I mean, the dude's a complete dope. And Ian Rappaport put out yesterday that he's leading the search for the next head coach. And I'm like, if Brian Dayball's getting the axe, he should be getting the axe too.
Right. It
Because
should
they're
have been a package
package
deal.
Yeah. And that dude is incompetent. Like, all you got to do is watch the offseason Hard Knocks, and he's not likable.
I do not understand how they both made it through last offseason, how either of them made it through last offseason, but the timing is weird to fire Dayball midseason and keep Joe Shane and stand behind Joe Shane to pick the next head coach. It's a little bit strange.
I was shocked he kept his job after last season.
Yeah. It's the Giants. I will say the ownership has been more stable, but there is some decisions that don't make a whole lot of sense coming from East Rutherford right now. The quarterback situation is probably the most important, right? Like, if you're going to bring in the next head coach, it's got to be somebody who believes in your young quarterback, whether it's the Titans or the Giants. So that could end up being a factor as you interview these coaches, is do they like Ward or Dart better? I think in general, the consensus around the NFL has been that Ward was the better prospect coming out, obviously, based on the place that they were drafted. But you may see some coaches out there who like the way Dart is played better. He's more mobile. And I don't know. That's going to be something that plays out in the offseason as we go through these interviews of the Giants and Titans are in very similar situations with a rookie quarterback trying to find somebody who can develop them this year. And I don't know if the Titans are going to be the more attractive job there. The roster definitely favors the Giants. They've got talent on the defense with Abdul Carter and Brian Burns on the outside. Kayvon Thibodeau, I don't know how long he sticks around, but he's a high draft pick on the edge. So you've got talent there. The Titans have almost no talent on the outside. On the offensive side, Malik Neighbors for the Giants will be coming back from injury. So it's a very interesting situation as you stack up these two jobs between the Titans and Giants and which one might be more attractive. We've got a caller on our text line, on our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Kevin from Memphis wants to chime in on the Packers' next head coach. Kevin, what you got for us?
Yes, how about trying to bring Mike McCarthy back and let him run the show?
Oh, you think the Packers should bring McCarthy back?
Yeah.
That's it. That is very interesting.
Let's defer to Robbie on that one, see what he says.
Robbie, if you're still listening, let us know. You want to bring Mike McCarthy back? Thank you for the call, Kevin. Maybe that's something they would entertain. I doubt it. I would think they'd go a different direction. Heck, maybe even they promote from within if they fire LaFleur. Maybe they like the way that Jeff Hafley carries himself, and you could keep a little bit of stability in that locker room. He's going to get interviews elsewhere. Maybe that's a plan that they go with. I don't know if they would bring back Mike McCarthy. That's a very interesting point from Kevin from Memphis. There are a lot of jobs that could open up around the NFL. Right now, there are only two, and I think it would be a question of preference. It's like asking a flavor, because I think the Titans and Giants jobs are similar in terms of rosters, probably a little while away. The Giants is probably a little bit closer, and you've got young quarterbacks. You've just got to choose. but I have 7 other jobs, and we'll add an 8th because the Packers fans want LaFleur gone. So we'll go through those next. But first, let's go back to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dustin from Hopkinsville has a thought on the Packers head coach. Dustin, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Morning, guys. All I gotta do is say, please do that. Please. Hey, Robbie, I respect you, dude. I like you. Great guy. Man, you Packers fans are too biased to even put in your opinion on this. You're 5-3. I don't even watch the game. 5-3, guys. But we're stars here in Tennessee, and I've got a 0 IQ football IQ here, so I'm gonna put in my 2 cents. Malik Willis, we could not develop him, and then Green Bay picks him up, plays us the next week, and comes and beats us and makes him look like one of the best backups, and that he could be developed maybe into a starting quarterback on some team. Please, fire LaFleur. And I want to say this lightly because if we say, oh, he's great, maybe they'll hear us and not do it. But that's your head coach with a winning record who can develop quarterbacks. Please do it. He will be number 1 on my list.
I think that's a good point, Dustin, and I think that there would be plenty of teams that would interview Matt LaFleur if he got let go. Like, I really do. I think he would become one of the most popular
Titans
coaches
fans
on the
would
market.
love Matt LaFleur to come back and be the head coach.
I mean,
I'm doing my rain dance for him.
Thank you for the call, Dustin.
I hope y'all lose next week to the Giants. If y'all think Dayball was done fired, you ain't seen nothing yet if they fire LaFleur.
Well, I think if the Giants beat the Packers, then firing LaFleur becomes all that much more likely. But
Let's pray for it. Let's pray them Giants beat them. That interim bump just comes in, and Jackson Dart goes out and throws for 350, and yeah, let's do it. 4 touchdowns. Come on.
Thanks for the call, Dustin. Yeah, I think LaFleur would be a very popular coach on the market, and it's definitely giving parallels to Mike Vrabel. And we got Derek from Nolansville saying Vrabel finished 6-18 with the starting quarterback injured in a multitude of injuries. We fired a top-tier coach. And I think, yeah, everybody looking back would say it was the wrong decision to fire Mike Vrabel. You see what he's doing in New England and see what's happened since. You could not find an upgrade from Mike Vrabel. But in the moment, his shtick was getting a little bit old, and he had lost 18 of 24 games, including blowing the division lead at the end of the 2022 season. I know that the John Robinson firing in the middle of that threw a wrench into a lot of things, but you lost 7 straight to blow the division in 2022 and then went 6-11 the next year. Hindsight, yeah, you shouldn't have fired him. But in the moment, I think Titans fans were pretty much ready for Vrabel to be gone. That seems to be the feeling with Matt LaFleur, and maybe another team gets lucky and can hire him away. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get to some of your texts on the other side. We'll also go through other possible openings. We've learned that Green Bay is going to be wide open. Packers fans want Matt LaFleur gone. But I've got 7 other jobs that could open up. You'd like as little as possible to limit the competition for the Titans on the head coaching market. We'll talk about it next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly alongside you, going around the NFL head coaching carousel right now. Titans fired Brian Callahan 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, somewhere in there. Brian Daboll let go yesterday by the New York Giants, and the Packers fans are firing Matt LaFleur right now. We'll see if the team decides to follow suit at some point. News in the NBA, though, before we get back into that. Nico Harrison, Mavericks GM, gone. Less than a year after making the trade heard around the world, sending Luka Doncic to the LA Lakers. And maybe the most predictable thing that you've ever seen. You know, you trade away your star player for way less than you should get for a guy of that caliber. And yeah, he got lucky, won the draft lottery and got Cooper Flagg, but it's been a slow start to the year for Dallas, and he is gone.
Don't think Mavericks fans are upset about that. After he made that trade. Yeah, good riddance.
The good news is that the Mavericks security in their arena will not have to escort people with Fire Nico signs out of the building anymore. So, man, that trade looks worse and worse as the months go by, and he had to go. I mean, look at the Desmond Bane trade that happened this offseason where he got sent to the Magic for like 5 unprotected first-round picks or something like that. And all you got for Luka, like Anthony Davis is a good player, but he's on the backside of his career, and he got 1 first-round pick. Crazy stuff. And Nico Harrison being held accountable this morning. Back to the NFL. Brian Daboll was let go yesterday. And I thought Alex made a good point on our text line here that I wonder if Daboll's concussion protocol issues may have factored into this. Alex says Daboll circumvented concussion protocol twice on their young quarterback. That alone is borderline fireable. And I do wonder if that was part of it of, hey, you got a young quarterback. He's already been in concussion protocol a couple of times. You tried to get around it. You got fined for it. And then on Sunday, he gets knocked around again and has to leave a game. It's not what you want. We've seen what the concussions have done to players around the league. Tua Tagovailoa is the big example. And Brian Daboll has certainly put Jackson Dart in harm's way and tried to get him out of the blue tent while he was in concussion protocol.
When he exited the game on Sunday and they said that he was in concussion protocol, I didn't. It's not funny, but like it is just kind of crazy how many times Jackson Dart has been in concussion protocol. And then my mind went back to that Thursday night game where he went into the medical tent, Jackson Dart did, and Brian Daboll's yelling at the doctors to get him back out on the field. Russell Wilson comes in for a play. The fans are booing him. My mind immediately went to that. But also part of it too is, yeah, Jackson Dart did get better at sliding versus Chicago because he slid 3-4 times.
Yeah.
But man, like all the head bumping with like Cam Scadaboo when they don't have helmets on, like all that's got to stop.
Yeah,
that's got to stop.
I would say that now that you have a couple of concussions on your record here in your rookie year, no more head bumping with Cam Scadaboo. I wouldn't want to head bump Cam Scadaboo if I had 3 helmets on. That dude's a monster. So, yeah, Jackson Dart in concussion protocol. We'll see if he's able to play on Sunday against the Packers. Speaking of the Packers, we've got more thoughts on Matt LaFleur. Chip from Mount Juliet, who is a Packer fan, he says, what do the fans and teams want? Super Bowls or good regular season records? Ask any player what they want. It's clearly Super Bowl wins. And Chip, I understand what you're saying, but again, the grass isn't always greener. Look at the Titans right now. You were close. You were in the playoffs almost every year. You had won the division back-to-back seasons. And then you had a couple of years where you started to slip back and you fired Mike Vrabel. And look where you are now. You are by far the worst team in the NFL. It's been 3 years since you won back-to-back games. Like, the grass isn't always greener. Yeah, Matt LaFleur right now maybe isn't the guy to win you a Super Bowl, but who knows what the next guy is going to be. So it's...
Since this has turned into a Packers show today, here's what I'll say about Matt LaFleur. Have the Packers lived up to expectations this year? Absolutely not. But if you're going to fire him, if this is truly a hot seat year for him, you have to have a surefire candidate in mind that is going to be better.
You have to know who you're going to get and that they're going to be better. The Titans...
And make sure that's actually attainable, which I'm sure it would be because the Packers are a historic franchise, one of the probably the best market in the NFL.
Right.
So
I don't think that they would clearly become the most desirable job on the market if they let go of Matt LaFleur. That's a team that you can take over and immediately be in the playoff chase. But again, it's always a risk when you fire a head coach who's getting you to the playoffs every year because you just don't know what's on the other side. Matthew in Nashville, a resident Steelers fan on the text line, says, don't take LaFleur, go for Mike Tomlin. Then you too can be the 9-8 Super Bowl champs, go for 9 years without a playoff win and have the most predictable defense of all time. Not joking. If you take Mike, I will personally drive him to the Pittsburgh airport. Again, it's not always, the grass isn't always greener.
Man. All right, so we have Steelers fans calling for Mike Tomlin's
we-
job now.
We've got all these fans
Goodness.
of teams that are consistently decent.
This is not what I expected the show to be today.
I would take 9-8 a million times.
Right now, 9-8 looks wonderful.
Over what? I mean, we might be like 4-30,
1-15,
over a 2
maybe
year
2-14.
span. Yeah, give me 9-8. I did want to get to possible jobs that are going to open up, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Parker, because I went through this yesterday, and here's what I came up with. And apparently, Green Bay should be on here too. But I have 2 jobs that I think are almost for sure going to open up. The Miami Dolphins. They did beat the Bills this weekend, but I don't see them giving Mike McDaniel another year. And the Arizona Cardinals. Does that feel safe? I think Gannon, his shtick has kind of run its course a little bit. They haven't looked good. They've had some bad losses. I think those 2 jobs are the most likely to open up.
No, I think that's fair. I think they're both dead men walking. Yeah, I absolutely agree. 100%.
Then I have 5 under the possibly open tag. 2 of them I don't think are going to open up because it's 1 year, and that's the Jets and Saints. Like, yeah, they're going to be bad, but I don't know.
I think they all like Aaron Glenn.
Right. I don't know if you fire Aaron Glenn, former player for the Jets.
I think they trust him to get it right now that they've acquired all these first-round draft picks.
Right. I think Glenn gets another year. And then the Saints with Kellen Moore.
They weren't going to win anyway.
I think they're going to let Kellen Moore pick his own quarterback.
There was no way they were going to win anyway with that roster.
They set that roster up for failure, having Spencer Rattler and Tyler Shuck be your options at quarterback. So I think they both stay, but you lose enough games, there's always a chance you get fired. The other 3, I think, are all really interesting. The Cincinnati Bengals and Joe Burrow, his practice window opened up again yesterday, and Zach Taylor has to be hoping and praying right now that Joe Shiesty is going to save his job again, because right now I don't see a whole lot of reason to keep Zach Taylor around. I think his I went to the Super Bowl leash is starting to run out, and I wouldn't be surprised if they move on from him. Cleveland, kind of in a similar situation.
Those are the 2 I was looking at.
To the Titans.
Stefanski. I think Stefanski is a great head coach. I just don't think they've had good ownership, management, roster. They got screwed by the Deshaun Watson contract, and there's not really a lot of coming back from that.
I think it's a similar Titans and Vrabel situation of you have a guy who's proven he can be a head coach, but the results just haven't been there. Stefanski could be gone.
I'd take Stefanski in a heartbeat.
I would take him too. I think Stefanski, if he comes open, is going to have a lot of interviews. And then the Atlanta Falcons. Raheem Morris, there are times when he looks really good. He beat the Bills this year. The Falcons almost beat the Colts on Sunday. But they've also gotten blown out by the Dolphins and the Panthers this year. And I don't know. Arthur Blank, I don't think he's going to be all that patient, especially with Michael Penix going into year 3. I wouldn't be surprised if that job opens up.
I wouldn't be surprised either, because they're another one of those. The roster is way too talented for them to be below 500 right now. So because they look so good, they beat the Bills on Monday night, and then they go lose inexplicably to the Panthers.
Right. They lost 30-0 to the Panthers.
What team are you?
Right.
Are you good? Are you bad?
They are the full-on Jekyll and Hyde in the NFL, beating the Bills, going to overtime with the Colts, but then losing by 25 plus against the Dolphins and Panthers. There's still time for Raheem Morris to save his job, but I would put him on the hot seat right now. So that's 7 jobs. And again, I guess we're throwing Green Bay in there too.
I have one more question mark.
You got one?
Brian Schottenheimer with the Cowboys.
That's an interesting one.
Here's why I say this. I I wouldn't fire him after this year, but here's why I say that. Because Jerry Jones' press conference when they hired him, he was talking about this is the biggest risk you could take. And knowing I just I have a feeling knowing Jerry Jones that he would probably, if the results continue to trend in a downward direction, that he wouldn't be afraid to pull the trigger.
Dallas is always a job that you wonder if they're going to do something crazy. So I think that's a good point too. So if you put
It's
all
one
of
of
them
those
together,
wild card question marks.
right, and not all of those jobs are going to open up. I would argue that you're probably looking at 6 maximum openings this year. You've got 2 already. I think Miami and Arizona are going to open up. And then I think 2 of those other 7 that we mentioned, Atlanta, the Jets, the Bengals, the Browns, the Saints, the Packers, and the Cowboys. I would say 2 of those open up, which leaves some competition for the Titans. Let's talk about how the Titans might stack up and something to factor in when it comes to whether coaches might want to take the Titans job. We'll get to that coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 1025, the game finishing up hour number one. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Looking around the NFL head coaching carousel, 2 jobs now open. Right here in Nashville, Brian Callahan fired and Brian Daboll let go by the Giants yesterday. We went through and we found 9 other jobs that we believe could open up. Obviously, you're not going to see 11 head coaching openings in the NFL. That almost never happens. But I think 5, 6 is probably safe, and the Titans will have some competition when they interview these head coaching candidates. So something that I think is going to be important is Cam Ward. Going to be one of the biggest selling points for the Titans, but you also have to find somebody who truly believes in Cam Ward, right? Brian Callahan came in and said all he could about Will Levis. We don't know if it was true, whether he believed in Will Levis or not. Clearly, it didn't work out with Will Levis. You need somebody to come in here who believes Cam Ward can be a franchise quarterback and has a plan to develop him. But coaches are prone to want their own guy, right? Like, you always hear that with these head coaches, especially offensive head coaches, of they come in, they have a quarterback that they kind of inherit. It's an arranged marriage with a young quarterback. And if they fail, usually it's the most recent addition who gets to stay. So it would be the coach. And then you hear, oh, he's going to get a chance to get his guy in here. You got to find somebody who doesn't think that way. I think that's why an experienced coach like a Mike McCarthy might make sense, because I don't think he would think that way. I think it would be a younger coach like a Joe Brady who might come in and it's like, oh, well, he's a first-time head coach and he didn't even have his guy at quarterback, who may end up using that as an excuse. But you also look at a lot of those jobs that could open up, and a lot of them will be in the quarterback market this year in the draft. Miami, Arizona, New York, the Jets, that is, Cleveland, New Orleans, I think are all going to be looking to draft a quarterback. The question is, what's more attractive to these coaching candidates? Cam Ward, a guy who has already gone through some of the rookie struggles and you can see what he needs to improve on, or the mystery box of, oh, if I take this job with the Saints, I can go and pick a guy who I can mold from scratch as this ball of clay coming out of the draft.
That was the problem with, if you were going to pull the trigger on Brian Callahan last year, you probably should have done it if you knew that he was probably going to get fired this year, because alignment is the big word, because you want a GM who's in alignment with your head coach. And when you have this constant firing cycle where you fire a GM and then you keep the head coach, then you fire the head coach, keep the GM, then fire it's too much chaos. You want to have a head coach and a general manager that are in alignment with each other, that pick their players, develop them, and eventually they turn into stars. That's why we've seen teams like the Eagles and the Lions have success over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's going to kind of have to be like a Liam Cohen situation where he chose to coach Trevor Lawrence. He chose to help him get to his potential, and kind of some of these other situations with the Bucs, it's a little bit different because you have offensive coordinators that have worked with Baker Mayfield. So you're going to need a guy that chooses to coach Cam Ward rather than the other way around.
Yeah. And alignment is going to be key. And I think in the minds of ownership, and this may be easier said than done, in the minds of ownership and Amy Adams Strunk, you need everybody on the same timeline right now. When you make this next head coach, you hire the next head coach, you need Mike Borgonzi, the head coach, and Cam Ward to all be on the same timeline. And it can't just be the finger pointing game of, all right, well, after next year, I guess it's Cam's fault. Then after that, well, Borgonzi drafted Cam. Do we give him another chance? Borgonzi's out. Then it's the head coach. Well, he's had chances with 2 quarterbacks. Is he gone? You need them all in alignment. And it's got to be Borgonzi, who drafted Ward, the head coach who agrees to coach Ward and wants to develop him, and Cam Ward. And you look at those 3 as a unit. If one of them fails, they all fail, and you start over from scratch. But it has to be in alignment and on the same timeline for all 3 of these guys. Because if you don't have that, it's going to continue to be this rotating door of, all right, this guy's out. Now you're the one we believe in. Oh, well, you failed this year. You're out. Let's bring in somebody else. You can't keep having that. Lenny on the text line. I love these texts. Rookie struggles for Cam. Are you kidding me? He's finished.
Finished? He's done.
He goes,
he's terrible.
He has more interceptions than he has touchdowns. Lenny, how long have you been watching the NFL? Like, it's been 9 games. I don't understand the microwave view here from Titans fans of like, we want to draft this quarterback and he has to be immediately this star. Like, it takes time sometimes. Yes, it hasn't been great, but it's been 9 games. He's had the bye week. Let's see what he does after the bye week. And then guess what? He's going to get all of next year too.
The Peyton Manning example. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, and
the Peyton Manning example.
It is so funny. I saw a tweet yesterday of like, a quarterback's in trouble when people start pulling out the Peyton Manning and Josh Allen rookie year stats. And like, it's a good point of like, that is something that everybody wants to bring up. You want to bring up the outliers, but it's not just those guys. There are plenty of examples of quarterbacks who aren't the best in their rookie season.
Sam Darnold.
Look at Drake May.
Baker Mayfield.
Drake May, his stats looked better than Cam's last year.
Caleb Williams last year to this year.
Lenny says kaput. Okay, Lenny, you give up on Cam. See how that works out for you. Why do these Titans fans want the young quarterback to be finished? I don't get that. Root for your team.
There's such a small, loud minority of this fan base that is just out of their minds, can't reason with them. Unbelievable.
It is funny because, like, I remember when Marcus Mariota got drafted, it was unified. Titans fans would go to war with anyone who said Marcus Mariota wasn't the guy and go to war with anyone saying that Jameis Winston was better than Marcus Mariota. Back up Cam Ward. Yes, he struggled, but it is year 1. You've already fired his head coach. There's clearly not a lot of talent around him. He's going to get more than just 9 games to prove he's the guy. Skylar says Titans fans didn't want Cam Ward. Everybody wanted to trade down. Skylar, I don't know.
Are you kidding me?
Skylar, like, everybody is a very gross overestimation there. I would say 70% of the fan base wanted
everybody
Cam Ward.
Implies 100%. That's not true.
I would say a majority of the fan base wanted Cam Ward. And I wouldn't say it was close. I'm not saying it's 51. I would say 70% of the fan base wanted Cam Ward, but the loud 30% that wanted to trade down are now taking victory laps 9 games in.
I don't want to hear from these fans if Cam Ward happens to be good one day. I don't want to hear from these fans. I don't want them jumping back on the bandwagon. You stick with it through thick or thin. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But 9 games in, let's not start labeling somebody a bust, which is a career-defining term, by the way.
Yeah.
And this guy's played half of a rookie season.
Jaden Daniels and CJ Stroud have ruined the NFL fans.
People can't reason anymore.
It's like quarterbacks have always struggled as rookies, but you have 2 examples from the last 2 years of guys coming in and immediately becoming what you thought were top 5 quarterbacks right off the bat. And now nobody can develop anymore. There's no such thing as a guy getting better. Speaking of fans who don't want Cam Ward, let's go to Trey on our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com.
That was
Trey,
a great tie.
Thanks for calling. What you got?
Good morning, guys. Hey, I wanted to say that, I don't think that the Titans know how to win. I don't think the person that they hire, the person that they hire is going to have at least a 65% winning percentage and bring that winning culture into the Titans. Right now, I feel like they don't have an identity. Cam Ward doesn't have an identity. None of that over there is good. So whoever comes in is going to have to deal with all of that. And can Cam Ward learn from a different coach? I don't know. He's had 5 of them in his career in college and high school, and and this is his product. I'm just saying, I'm gonna give him a chance, but it's not looking good. And I love y'all. Jake, you're doing a great job, buddy. You take care, okay?
Thanks for the call, Trey. Hey, Trey saying he's going to give Cam a chance. I like hearing that.
I always love the encouragement at the end of the phone call. Jake, you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
New York Doug, our good friend on the text line, says, job opening, sports radio hosts in Nashville must have ability to remove Cam Ward blinders. it's not removing Cam
New
Ward
York
blinders.
Dog.
We are perfectly capable of looking and saying that Cam Ward has not been good enough.
Have we not
through
been?
his first inning?
We've been critical of Cam
we
Ward.
are
at
critical,
times.
and every week when we talk with TD, when we talk with Corey, we talk about the things that Cam Ward needs to get better at. But there is the ability for quarterbacks to get better after their first 9 games.
I love that the reasonable logic keeps flooding into the YouTube and text chat. It's wonderful.
It is so funny. The Cam Ward haters are out and plentiful on this Tuesday morning. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get to your phones. We'll also talk some college football on the other side. The new CFP rankings are coming out tonight. Where will Vandy be? And what does the top look like after a week of close calls? We'll get to those coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly. Thanks for joining us on your Tuesday morning. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Darren Ambrose from Vanderbilt Soccer going to join us as his team SEC champions and a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. We'll get an update from him. But let's talk some college football here. I've decided to move on from some of the Cam Ward haters on the text
Probably
line.
a good idea.
But we've gotten some. There's been plenty of people who have come in and taken the side of reason. Thomas on a car phone, Mark, you guys saying that it's way too early to give up on Cam Ward, and we will continue to preach that until it's not too early to give up on Cam Ward.
We had a caller during the commercial break call in and say Trey's been crawling up Cam's, you know what, and then says that he's going to give him a chance. So
Yeah. Yeah. Trey, I will give Trey credit. His calls from preseason and early in the regular season were pretty insane. You know, I remember him calling in the first week of the preseason and saying that the Titans needed to win this weekend. And I could not stop laughing. His calls have slowly gotten more reasonable, maybe since he started actually watching the games.
And maybe since he's been listening to us. I don't know. That's a joke.
Well, he
because
said
apparently we should be fired, according to some texters.
Well, no, New York Doug, he didn't say me specifically. He said all Nashville sports radio hosts.
all.
He said hosts who cannot take off the Cam Ward blinders. Anyway, let's get on to college football. The CFP rankings, second edition, come out tonight, and it should stay somewhat consistent with what it was last week, but we could have some shakeups. I have listed out my top 12 plus the first couple teams out. Do you want to get into this?
Jake, I'd love nothing more.
All right. At the top, I'm going to keep it the same. Ohio State, I think, stays at number 1. At number 2, I think Texas A&M should move up. I think A&M needs to be number 2. They are undefeated. They have a marquee win on the road against Notre Dame. I know Indiana's got the Oregon win, but I don't know. Just eye test the last couple of weeks. A&M has looked strong. There are these trap games they keep playing against these lower teams, and they're just blowing them out. So I like A&M at number 2, Indiana at number 3. A win is a win. I don't want to drop them too far for almost losing to Penn State, but I do drop them a spot. Alabama number 4, Georgia number 5, Ole Miss number 6. I think that stays the same. I think those 4 SEC teams are pretty much locks, barring a disaster down the stretch. You know, Alabama does play Oklahoma this weekend. Maybe you lose that one. The Iron Bowl is always going to be interesting, but I really think that those top 6 in general, they're going to be in Ohio State, A&M, Indiana, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. I've got Texas Tech moving up just one spot. I know it was an impressive win against BYU, but I can't justify moving them past Ole Miss. Ole Miss's only loss is to Georgia. That grouping of Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, it's tough to move because you've got the head-to-head, right? Alabama beat Georgia, Georgia beat Ole Miss, and none of those teams have lost to anybody else except Alabama to Florida State. So Texas Tech stays at 7, Oregon at 8, Notre Dame at 10, Notre Dame at 9, Texas at 10, Oklahoma 11. And then outside, I've got Utah, BYU, Vandy in that order. Thoughts on that, Parker? Do you think BYU should slide further after that loss against Texas Tech? They only have one loss. I'm going Utah, BYU, Vandy. And actually, you know, now that I'm looking at it, I may flip that and go BYU, Utah, Vandy. But I think those 3 are the ones on the outside looking in.
I'm going to be honest. I think Vandy deserves the benefit of the doubt over both of those teams. With BYU, they have one impressive win, and that was over Utah. And I'm not taking away credit from BYU because that was a good win. But the way in which they got handled by Texas Tech on Saturday tells me a lot about what I need to know about them.
Right.
And outside of that, the resume is not very good. So BYU, as long as they were winning the games, deserved to be in the top 10, which they were.
Right.
But after that loss versus Texas Tech and the fashion in which they did it, I believe they deserve to fall. I'm going to release my rankings later today. I'm actually working on it right now. I'd probably have them within the 13 to 16 range.
So the way I look at it, as I think the committee is going to have Utah and BYU ahead of Vanderbilt this week. But I think Vandy has the game in front of them that can vault them ahead, right? Like the resumes aren't sealed, signed, delivered. Like it is not over yet. Vandy, I think, is going to be behind Utah and BYU. But if you win out, I think that Tennessee win would be enough to get ahead of both of those teams and leave it as a one-bid Big 12. Not 100% sure about it, obviously, but I think Vandy's resume, if you look at it against BYU, if it's an 11-1 BYU who loses in their conference championship game versus a 10-2 Vandy, I would take Vandy. I have Georgia Tech in as the ACC team, and Tulane gets the group of 5 bid. So,
no love to the Dukes.
Right now, I'm going with the AAC. if there's a little bit more turmoil over in the American, then I think JMU could end up passing them. But for now, I'm going to go with Tulane. So that would be Ohio State, Texas A&M, Indiana, and Alabama would get buys. You'd have Georgia and Tulane, Ole Miss and Georgia Tech, Texas Tech, and Texas in Lubbock. How about that as an opening round game?
Man, okay, so you know that I was never pro expansion, but the one thing that I really, really love about this is the home environments. I think they're fantastic.
Yeah.
I really love
that.
it.
That is the best part of the college football playoff, is that you get games in home stadiums that are, I mean, it is a playoff game. It is win or go home. That had never happened before in college football. And now you've got it. The one thing I want to get to with this is Notre Dame. I've got them at 9, and mostly that's just because I think the committee is going to stay consistent with it, right? Like, they put Notre Dame at 10. They're going to pass BYU, so they're going to move up to 9. I just don't see it with Notre Dame's resume that they should be ranked that high. And I know this isn't a novel idea. Plenty of people have said this, but Notre Dame does not have a win on their schedule that makes you feel good about them as a playoff team. I understand that they only lost their first 2 games by 4 points against Miami and A&M. And Miami and A&M are both ranked. A&M still undefeated. And you've blown out Purdue and Arkansas and Boise State. But outside of USC, which is an okay win, do I really think that their resume stacks up with an SEC team at the end of the year? Like, if your best wins are USC and Pitt, does that warrant you getting into the playoff? I don't know.
That's what I've been saying this for a long time about Notre Dame, because each week I release a little poll that I do on Twitter, and I've had Notre Dame, like, after they started the season 0-2, I don't believe that at week 3 they shouldn't have been ranked. But when they continue to win and they get an impressive win like they did at USC, then they'll start to move up. That's how this thing works. So if we're going based off resume, I believe Texas and Oklahoma both have better wins. Actually, they have 2 better wins than Notre Dame. So therefore, in my mind, I think they should be ranked ahead of Notre Dame.
Yeah, I think it's the recency bias of they haven't lost since week 2. So they're going to keep moving up in the rankings.
And they get a lot of credit for the way they lost
to
A&M and Miami. And the truth of the matter is, yeah, they were very close competitive games, but they lost ultimately. And losses in the regular season have to account for something.
Yeah.
And that's why, with Texas and Oklahoma, they're kind of in a similar situation. But if we're going based off who has the better win or wins, Texas and Oklahoma both have them.
Yeah, like if it ends up being Notre Dame and Vandy for the last spot, like let's say Texas and Oklahoma both lose this weekend and Notre Dame is 10-2, Vandy's 10-2. Both of the losses for both teams are, you don't say there's a bad loss in there. Vandy would have lost to an Alabama team that's getting a bye. Notre Dame would have lost to a Texas and A&M team that's getting a bye. Vandy would lose to a Texas team that was just outside the playoff, and Notre Dame lost to a Miami team that's just outside the playoff. So the losses are about equal. You look at the wins, and yeah, maybe USC stacks up with, if in this scenario, Vandy would beat Tennessee and Neyland. Maybe that's about equal. But you look at the other 7 wins, and Vandy's resume is way better than Notre Dame's. I don't know how you would put the Irish in over a 10-2 SEC team, but it seems like that's the way things are going to go if Notre Dame is able to win out. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Edward is on the line wanting to talk about Tennessee. Edward, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys, can you hear me okay?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. There's only one team in the AP top 25 with 3 losses. Guess who that is?
Who is that?
Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Is that Tennessee? Yeah, that's true.
Yes, they should not be in the top 25. That's an outrage. I believe that Vanderbilt does have a good shot at making the playoffs. I mean, some journalists and sports people say they think it's a given, but no, I don't. I think that the problem will be, I think they might beat Kentucky. I can't think you overlook anything. But my problem is, can Diego Pavia not get into it with the Tennessee crowd like he did the Alabama crowd? And that happened. You witnessed it. And what happened at Alabama, guys? I just think that if he can stay focused, I'm a Vanderbilt fan. I'd like to see him win. My team, my football team here locally is terrible, and I'm not even going to bring them up. But Vanderbilt is playing good. I think there is a strong possibility that they can make the playoffs. Nothing's given in this environment, but I think the one snag that I'm concerned about is going to Neyland Stadium. I believe Clark Lee will have it ready to play, no doubt. But I just want to make sure Diego probably almost ignores that crowd and doesn't get involved because they're going to they're going to do everything they can to rattle him. All right, guys, enjoy your show. I think Trey's right that y'all are doing a good job. I help pass my time on my workouts in the morning, so I appreciate you.
Appreciate you listening. Thanks for calling, Edward. And I agree with you. I think Tennessee may not be ranked tonight when the college football playoff rankings are released. They were 25 last week. There's a chance they stay in there, but it'll be, I would say, 50-50. And yeah, that game in a couple of weeks in Neyland, as long as Vanderbilt can take care of business against Kentucky, they're going to feel like they're playing for a spot in the college football playoff. We don't know what the committee is going to do, but heading into that game, the feeling is you win and you're in. I think the losses at Alabama and at Texas can do a lot for Vanderbilt in terms of preparing them for that game. I think in the first game, Diego tried to do too much, and that ended up costing them. He had the 2 red zone turnovers, and you end up losing that game by a couple of scores. Then against Texas, I think the team maybe wasn't quite ready for that environment, and they end up getting blown out early on and have to dig themselves back up. I think those 2 experiences can help them get ready for Neyland. Never is going to be an easy place to go play. And the way Vanderbilt's defense is playing right now, they're going to struggle to slow down that Tennessee offensive attack. But I do think that the schedule that they've had so far should have them ready to go. And they're going to clearly have more motivation than Tennessee, who isn't going to be playing for a playoff spot. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll get to all of your phones on the other side. Talking college football, new CFP rankings coming out tonight. We'll see where Vanderbilt slots in. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Talking college football playoff rankings. We'll see at the second edition tonight. Vanderbilt was 16th in the initial rankings, an overtime win over Auburn. Virginia and Louisville right in front of them, both lose. So Vandy likely moving up at least a couple of spots. And it'll be interesting to see where they slot them in comparison to the Utah teams, because Utah was ranked in front of them, but they have 2 losses in the Big 12, losing to Texas Tech and BYU. And then you've got BYU, who was undefeated, but was really uncompetitive against Texas Tech on Saturday and doesn't really have a marquee win on their schedule. So could Vandy move up maybe to 13th, maybe to 12th? I don't know. But where they get slotted tonight could have a large impact on where they end up, because the committee, every time they release one of these rankings, is setting a precedent that they have to justify why they're moving certain teams where they are. If Vandy's behind them, you do have to see if maybe a win over Tennessee in the final week of the season does push them ahead of some of these other teams in, to be fair, lower level conferences like the Big 12.
Yeah, no, I think the Big 12 now is still, I think the committee told you last week that there's 3 contenders to make the playoff. Texas Tech, BYU, depending on what happens, and BYU have opportunities to prove themselves because they still have to play Cincinnati, which would be, if they were able to win, that would be a good win. If they play in the Big 12 conference championship, if they lose, do they get left out? I think that the way they played against Texas Tech, if they play anywhere remotely close to that, I think they would get left out. But if it's close, then we'll see. I think it's an interesting case study. And then Utah came in at 13 last week.
Despite having 2 losses. I know those 2 losses were both to top 10 teams at the time, but now that we've seen BYU get blown out, I don't know. If you're asking whether I believe BYU, Utah, or Vanderbilt would put up the best fight in a playoff game, I would go Vanderbilt. I know, get another hypothetical win for the SEC meme out. But just looking at the teams and the way they've played against high-level opponents, I think Vanderbilt stacks up better with the top teams that will be in the playoffs. But that isn't the exercise, right? Like, the exercise is to find the most deserving teams. Yes, there is a factor of the best teams in terms of where they stand. We saw that with Florida State a couple of years ago. Yes, they were the most deserving team, but with the way the team was currently constructed without their quarterback, you kind of had to leave them out. I didn't like it at the time, but you're looking for the most deserving teams, and I struggle to see an 11-2 BYU team getting left out. I really do, and I hate it because I really don't think that they are a better team than Vanderbilt. But if they go 11-2 and their only losses are to Texas Tech and one of them's in the Big 12 championship, I think the committee is going to be kind of in the same spot they were with SMU last year, where it's like, yeah, are they a better team than Alabama? No, but we're looking for the most deserving teams, and I think BYU would probably fit the bill in that situation.
Absolutely. I think this is all going to be very interesting, because then let's say BYU does get left out, Utah doesn't play in the Big 12 Conference Championship, and they get blown out to Texas Tech in the Big 12 Conference Championship. Then I think at that point, the Big 12 would be a one-bid league along with the ACC, because it's very clear that nobody wants to win the ACC right now. That opens up a spot for a 5th SEC team, like I talked about with Frazier, a 9-3 Oklahoma team maybe sneaking in there, or a 9-3 Texas sneaking in there, which is a legit possibility that could happen. Now it's small, but it could happen. Or we could see a 4th Big 10 team get in, whether that be USC, or nobody's talking about Michigan. But Michigan they still have 2 losses. What happens if they beat Ohio State? Michigan would have 1 Big 10 loss. Ohio State would have 1 Big 10 loss, but Michigan would win the tiebreaker because they beat Ohio State. You can't rule it out after the last 5 years.
Yeah, that is an important point to make, that there is still a couple of Big 10 teams lurking behind those top 3. Right now, I think it's safe to say the SEC is going to get 4 teams in, and you feel pretty good about who those 4 teams are. Texas A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss. Those 4 are in great spots. They do have some tough games left on the schedule, But for the most part, I think Georgia, if they lost this weekend to Texas, I think they could afford that loss. They probably still would stack up better than Vanderbilt with their losses being to Alabama. Well, I guess they would have the same losses, right? Alabama and Texas. What would Georgia's best win be at that point? Tennessee?
Texas's best win would
No, I'm saying Georgia. So if Georgia loses this weekend to Texas, Georgia would have the exact same losses as Vanderbilt.
Right. No, that would be at that point, I think they would still get the benefit of the doubt because of the Block G, and they'd have an opportunity to prove it against Georgia Tech at the end of the year.
I guess Ole Miss, I forgot they beat Ole Miss.
Yeah,
the Ole Miss win would carry them over Vanderbilt.
Yep.
So
they would still be in.
You
They'd
are
be like
rooting
9.
hard for Georgia this weekend to beat Texas. Same thing with Alabama against Oklahoma, because
100%.
Alabama has the head-to-head win over you, so therefore they would definitely be able to get past you at a 10-2. So yeah, this weekend, Vanderbilt fans, you're rooting hard for Georgia and Alabama to get those wins, because if Texas and Oklahoma get to 3 losses, that vaults Vanderbilt into that 5th spot in the SEC. And I think at the end of the year, the SEC is going to get 5 in. Whether that's Notre Dame losing another game or whether that's the Big 12, if BYU loses to Cincinnati, I think there's going to be 5 SEC teams in at the end of the year. So if Texas and Oklahoma lose this weekend and Vanderbilt is able to beat Tennessee and Kentucky, I think you are going to see the black and gold in the college football playoff. But still, obviously, a long way to go. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to chime in, we'd love to hear from you. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, you guys should do the week's best and worst calls of the week on Fridays, and everyone calls in to roast them. That's kind of funny. Like we record all of the calls from the week and line them up to see who has the best points and the worst points.
I'm all for that. Public shaming? Absolutely. Sign me up.
We've got so many callers that would probably become multi-time worst calls of the week award winners. Brandon and Hermitage says, Parker, if Michigan beats the Ohio State, have you lost your mind, dude? I think he's being sarcastic.
Yeah, I was about to say, you can't, after the way the last 5 years have gone, can you blame me for saying that? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but would you rule it out?
Yeah, no, right.
We've ruled it out the last 4 years, and Michigan's went in and beat them.
Right. Who would have thought Ohio State would have lost to Michigan last year? And it happened. So you can never rule anything out when rivalry weekend comes along. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Coming up next, head coach Darren Ambrose from Vanderbilt Soccer going to join us. His team won the SEC championship on Sunday and then picked as a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament yesterday. We'll go through his season and look ahead to the NCAA tournament coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning. We are thrilled to be joined now on our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, by the head coach of Vanderbilt soccer, Darren Ambrose, after his team won the SEC Tournament Championship on Sunday and a number one seed in the NCAA tournament, which starts this Friday evening over on West End. Coach, congratulations on all your success this season. Thanks so much for taking some time with us.
Hey, Jake. No, thanks so much. I appreciate that. Always happy to chat and talk about our program when we're given the opportunity. So thank you.
Well, Sunday, Coach, I know I was on the edge of my seat watching the PKs in that game, getting the saves in the 4th and 5th rounds to extend it, and then finally coming through in the 10th to take home the championship. What's going through your mind in that situation where every single kick could end up deciding a championship?
Yeah, I look back at the footage and I look quite calm, but inside my stomach was turning. I think I had 6 heart attacks. It is really that point in the player's hands, and you trust your kids. And we know our goalkeeper. We said before that our goalkeeper Wojo was going to make saves, and to that point she hadn't, but we knew she had him in her. And sure enough, she showed up and did what she did last year against Florida State, number 1 seed. So. Yeah, it's a little nerve-wracking. We thought, 2 down is equivalent of like coming back from with a Hail Mary almost. Yeah, just really proud of our kids. It was a fantastic day.
Your team has now won 9 straight matches, hasn't lost since September. What about this group has allowed them to be so consistent and able to show up every single match and come out on the right side?
Well, I think it's a combination of time and but the 2 words I use to describe them is there's a selflessness to them and there's a deep level of trust. And the third aspect of them, there's a joy between them when they play the game. You can see when you watch sports on TV where there's a joy and a connection between the players. And I would tell you that I've had a lot of teams in my time, and this one has probably one of the strongest inter-team connections and interpersonal relationships that I've ever had. And a lot of it is based around the joy of playing. And that is a cool thing in today's world of sports. So, and they've got talent too. Don't get me wrong. pretty talented.
Talking with head coach Darren Ambrose from Vanderbilt soccer. Coach, you mentioned Sarah Wadelko in goal and all the experience that she has, the game against Florida State last year to pull off the win and advance to the Sweet 16. How much confidence does it give you and give her teammates out there to know that, hey, even if we make a mistake on that back line, we've got maybe the best goalkeeper in the country behind us who can clean up?
Yeah, I think that's an accurate statement. I mean, I think she is if she's not the best, she's one of the best. And I was a former goalkeeper, and I think I understand the need for a presence of confidence that permeates through the team. And, you can hear, if you ever watch any of our games, you can hear a voice that is constant, and it's hers. And it inspires confidence all the way through from back to front. So, yeah, it's a huge factor in how we play. It's a huge factor in the team dynamic. It's a huge factor in our confidence, and it all stems from her.
At the top, Sydney Watts has been unbelievable this year. He leads the SEC in goals. She had a couple for you in that semifinal match against Georgia. How impressive has she been? And you mentioned Sarah at the back, and having Sydney at the front just makes you so dynamic in what you can do as a team. Yeah,
I mean, Sid's an artist. When we play, she's got great movement. She thinks at a different level. She's also got technical qualities. She's an exciting player in and around the 18-yard box, which obviously in soccer, you've got to have a goal scorer to put away chances. She's efficient. We look to Sid, to be the one that carries that weight. And, to do it when it's expected is one thing, that carrying the pressure and expectation and being able to perform at that level says a lot about her, I think. Talking with head coach Darren Ambrose from Vanderbilt soccer. SEC champions on Sunday. And yesterday, the selection show, you're named the number 1 seed in your region. And that allows you to play at home for at least the first 3 games of the tournament. How important is that to get to play at home, don't have to travel, and have your home fans behind you? Yeah, it's huge. I think you work all year for this moment. 1, to potentially win a championship, and then 2, to be in the NCAA tournament, and then 3, to be seeded. And, this year we hit the crown jewel. We've done a body of work that's put us a 1. And the idea is, we haven't lost at home this year. So we know that we're comfortable there. We have routines. We have great fans. It's a huge bonus. We'll be hosting. If we continue to win out, we'll be hosting all the way to the Final Four. So it could be obviously a historic moment for our program and for soccer in Nashville. Outside of Nashville SC, I think we're the highest level of soccer around, and we've got some future pros on the field that are fun to watch. And hopefully that will encourage the community to come out to some of these games. It'll be very high level games.
We're talking to head women's soccer coach at Vanderbilt, Darren Ambrose. Darren, talk about the grind of the SEC. There's really no breaks on a week-to-week basis, and how that has prepared your team for the upcoming tournament.
Yeah, it's again, I think it's the physically toughest, most grueling league to get through. The week in Pensacola last week is a good example of it too. You've got to be tested. You have to be battle tested when you get to the end of the year. And, if you look early in our season, we ended up losing to Texas with about 10 seconds to go, which could have really, sent us a different direction. And they ended up finishing 14th or 15th in our league. And it was a blemish, it was a bad result, but it also, they've got some really good players as well. But it proved to be a catalyst for, propelling us forwards into that meat grinder in the middle of the season when you really are playing against top 25 teams week in and week out. So yeah, I think it really served its purpose, right? The league is a tough place. And it reminds you every day that unless you bring your best, you're not going to end up on the right side of a result. And I think our kids answered that question.
And looking ahead to Tennessee Tech, who you will host on Friday night at 7, what kind of challenges do they present?
Well, I think the first thing is we beat them earlier this year, which is, I've always say this, it's very hard to beat a team twice in a season. So they've got their own motivations. They're their conference champions. When you get to this level, there's no easy game. We respect everybody we play. They're going to make it really difficult. Corey's a guy I respect, their coach. He's a friend. We were texting back and forth even last week about our tournaments and things. So I have no doubt that they will come in with a little bit of a chip. We beat them out there this year. They'll come in with extra motivation. They've got nothing to lose. And our kids have got to be on and respect everything that they're going to bring to the table on Friday night.
Last one, Coach. Again, thanks so much for taking some time with us. You now get to see your bracket, and you mentioned the goal obviously is to win a championship, and so much goes into that, especially in soccer where you can outplay a team and one bounce one way or another can end up deciding the game. But what do you hope to see from your team as you look to make a run throughout the NCAA tournament?
Well, I think the lesson we learned on Sunday was the big one we talked about already, which is in our first half in the final against LSU, we didn't compete. We tried to play. And, I want to see us compete now every game. We can play the game, but I think we have to compete the game when you get to this time of year, when everything's on the line all the time. And I thought that's what we learned about ourselves. We're still learning. We don't know what's possible for this team. A championship is possible, but for us to win a championship, there are things that are going to happen, and we are going to have to compete. And when we compete and when we bring our talents to the table, then that's possible. And so they know that, and that's something that we're going to talk about this week some more.
Coach, thanks so much for taking some time with us, and we wish you luck throughout the tournament, hoping to see Vanderbilt bring some more hardware back to West End.
Yeah, no, thanks. We hope to see a lot of the soccer community out there in the next week or two as we get on this journey.
Head coach Darren Ambrose, big thanks for joining us, and his team starts off their NCAA tournament run on Friday against Tennessee Tech. That is a 7:00 kick against the Golden Eagles over at the Vanderbilt Soccer Complex. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2 after this. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up here on 102.5 The Game. Finishing up the second hour here on this Tuesday, Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Great to have head coach Darren Ambrose on from Vanderbilt Soccer. Really cool story for them. 9 straight wins dating all the way back to September. They're SEC champions, and they will start their NCAA tournament run on Friday if you want to head out there. 7 o'clock kick against Tennessee Tech over at the Vanderbilt Soccer and Lacrosse Complex. I wanted to spend just a quick segment here on the Predators because last night was bad in New York City. 6-3 loss to the New York Rangers. If you're looking for a bright spot, Matt Wood has been that bright spot. He had a hat trick, which is great. If you're looking for one thing to feel good about the future of the Preds, it's Matthew Wood. He has come in and he has been an instant impact player. It's what the Preds have been looking for with some of these young guys on the team, and a lot of them haven't stepped up. Matt Wood has. So give him credit there. But this is a Rangers team that had been outscored 8-0 in their last 2 games on home ice and had not won a game in Madison Square Garden yet this year. And they beat you 6-3. It's just, things are trending in the wrong direction for the Predators right now. And you get to head overseas to go to Sweden for this global series against the Penguins. You play 2 games in 3 days out there. You got to figure something out fast, because I'm wondering how long the leash is going to be, not just for the coach, but for the players too, as Barry Trotz is likely going to want to start making some moves. We talked about UC Soros yesterday. I would still say it's unlikely that he ends up getting traded, but I don't know if there's too many untouchables on this roster right now, the way they're playing, and with the way this might have to be a rebuild down to the studs.
Yeah, and I'm just so confused. My mind has been baffled how this team went from Stanley Cup expectations 2 seasons ago to now they're in terms of standings, the 3rd worst team in the NHL. And my question is, if you fire Bruno in midseason, what's the answer at interim?
Right.
Have you heard the Barry Trotz could coach the team, or am I making that up?
Somebody was saying that Barry Trotz wants to put himself back behind the bench. I think that's completely
I don't know
false.
how realistic that was, but I just heard that.
If he still wanted to be behind the bench, he would have looked for a head coaching job instead of going to be a GM. I do not see that happening. But you look at the coaching staff. I'm blanking on the name. Former Blackhawks coach that's now on the staff for the Preds. If somebody wants to help me out on the text line.
I know who you're talking about.
I'm blanking on the name, and it's funny. I'm looking through and I can't find it. But they hired him this offseason. He would be the guy. I don't know. Luke Richardson. Luke Richardson would end up being the interim head coach, I would believe. But I don't know if Barry Trotz wants to fire Andrew Brunette yet. I think it's going to take a lot to have him make that move, but it's getting closer. And honestly, I don't know how long Barry Trotz is going to have. Yes, he's meant so much to this franchise, and I do think he's done a lot of good for this team. The draft classes lately have looked solid. They've got a lot of prospects coming through that you think eventually will make this team good, but the moves the last offseason have just not panned out. The team has not been able to adjust with these veteran players, and I don't see this getting much better for the Preds. I had hope heading into the season that what the Preds were planning on those veteran guys coming back from a down year and being better was actually going to happen, but it hasn't worked out. You've lost 5 straight now. You got blown out by a Rangers team, a good Rangers team that had been able to win on the road, but was bad at home. We'll see what these next 2 games against the Penguins look like in Sweden. Maybe this can be the reset. Maybe this can be this year's U2 concert for the Predators going across to Sweden. But right now, things are trending in the wrong direction, and moves are going to get made, whether that's players, coaches, front office. I think it's clear that the Preds might need a full-on rebuild here. They've got the young talent coming through, but it's probably a couple of years away. Getting rid of some of these veteran guys and adding more pieces for the future might be the move. 3155 says Richardson, he did nothing to change the trajectory from last year. fair, but he's an assistant coach. Like, I don't know if you can put blame on him, and he is the guy who has head coaching experience on this team. So I do think he would be the interim coach. It's probably like a Mike McCoy situation where he's the interim, doesn't have much chance to become the permanent head coach, but I think he would be the clear choice if they did end up getting rid of Andrew Burnett.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. A guy with coaching experience, yeah, that would make sense. But you got to hope that this team can figure it out in Sweden, because it's just been so disappointing. I thought after the first couple of games, like, okay, like maybe the Preds can get a little something going, and I've been completely wrong.
It's been bad the last couple of weeks. They have now lost, I believe, 13 of 17. That includes overtime losses, so they've been able to get some points, but it has been bad. And okay. 3155 was saying Richardson. He said Trotz did nothing to change the trajectory from last year. Gotcha. So he's talking about Trotz needing to move on. I think everything's on the table for the Predators. And again, you head across the Atlantic, you head to Sweden, and these trips can end up being important, but I don't really see anything going in the right direction outside of Matt Wood. Like, Matt Wood is the one thing that if you're a Preds fan, you look at and say, that guy looks like he is going to be a future piece for this team. Outside of that, I don't see a ton. It is tough time to be a pro sports fan in Nashville.
Luckily, we have Vanderbilt, but apparently some of you don't want us talking about college sports.
It happens. We're in the South, though. People love their college sports. People love the SEC. Michael in Madison says, if we don't come away with at least 2 points from the Sweden road trip, I think it's time for Bruno to go. The U2 miracle run seems more and more fluky as time goes on. And it's a fair point. That 19-game point streak is really the reason why everything has happened the last couple of years. And I know Preds fans loved it at the time. It got you into the playoffs. But I wonder if looking back, would Preds fans trade that 19-game point streak to actually have more of a logical rebuild instead of trying to go for it 2 summers ago and go get Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea and say we can be Stanley Cup contenders, when maybe that's not where the actual trajectory should have been for this team. And it's hindsight's 2020. I say it all the time. It's tough to look back and say, man, I wish we hadn't made the playoffs in 2023 or 2024, because then we probably don't go all in with these veteran moves and completely change the plan for this team, which was supposed to be rebuilding. But now you're in this spot with a lot of contracts that you really can't move, a lot of old veteran players who aren't going to get better. And the Preds just got to hope that these young guys develop quick, whether that's, Gibson and Molendijk on the blue line. You've got, of course, Brady Martin, your 5th overall pick, who will be back next year. You've got Igor Surin, who's playing well over in the KHL. There's a lot of promise down there for your recent first-round picks and your prospects, but a lot of those guys might be a while away from actually being legit NHL players. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Brian says, when the Preds get back into town, it's time to clean house. That includes getting a real GM to get things moving in the right direction. I don't know if they completely clean house midseason. That doesn't seem like the Predators' way. I think you might get rid of Andrew Burnett midseason, and then if you want to make a move from Trotz, that happens after the year. I just don't see them completely cleaning house mid-year. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, I'm super biased and love Trotz. With that said, I feel this is his fault for building a slow old team, set his coach up for failure, and that it's a fair point that he thought that those big moves were what it was going to take to get the Preds into Stanley Cup contention, and it's actually set the team back a couple of years. And you never know when you make those moves, but obviously it has not worked out for Nashville since signing those veterans back in the summer of 2024. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. When we come back, we're going to get back into the Titans. Mike McCoy spoke yesterday, talked about some of the adjustments that they made during the bye week, what he's done with Cam Ward, and what the Titans need to be better at as they play the Texans on Sunday. We'll talk two-tone blue on the other side. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Final hour, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on this Tuesday, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Back into the Titans here to start hour number 3. Titans coming off the bye week. They'll take on the Texans at Nissan Stadium on Sunday afternoon, trying to get win number 2 on the year. Fans may be hoping against that they stay at 1 win. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. I did want to get to some text before we get into some of Mike McCoy's comments from yesterday. Jeff on our text line, he does not like Cam Ward. He's not a fan of the Cam Ward selection. But I love the way Jeff texts. It's so matter of fact. He does his Cam Ward hate in a very respectful manner. A couple of days ago, Friday, he texted in. I guess I was talking about how I said there's no Trevor Lawrence or Andrew Luck or Joe Burrow in this upcoming draft class. And he goes, interesting thought. I noticed you didn't say there is no Cam Ward in this class. And then in our last segment, he was saying the Preds have been much like the Titans, going for a hopeful franchise quarterback instead of being smart and rebuilding the other team positions first, huh? So, Jeff, I appreciate it. It's a very nice way to go after Cam Ward. I understand the sentiment of wanting to build up the team around your young quarterback before you draft him. But if you believe that you have a chance to take a franchise quarterback, you take him. It's the easiest thing in sports. If you believe that the guy at the top of the draft is your franchise quarterback, you don't pass on him. You don't trade out of it. There's no amount of picks. Maybe there is an amount of picks, but there is no realistic amount of picks that you would take to have you not pick Cam Ward if you believe he's your franchise quarterback. So that's where we are. And guess what? The Titans, as it stands right now, are in position to trade back and rebuild the roster anyway. So,
and also too, we have a lot of people saying that Mike Borgonzi deserves the benefit of the doubt based on what he was able to do in the draft last year.
Yeah.
Well, Cam Ward was his guy.
Right. And
does Mike Borgonzi still deserve the benefit of the doubt?
Borgonzi, again, what I thought was the most impressive press conference we've seen from a member of the Titans staff in years last week. And he backed up Cam Ward 100% and said that they've been impressed by some of his ability. They just need to find more consistency. And that will come with development, but also with the roster getting better around him, which you hope will happen this year if they can add a little bit to his weapons. You need a number 1 wide receiver, probably need another veteran presence in that room. And I don't know about the offensive line. The offensive line's kind of in a spot where it's like, how do you improve it? I don't really know, because Skoronski's going to stay. He's been good. You're going to give Latham another year, and hopefully he's healthier next year and can continue to develop. Dan Moore, you're keeping him for next year. He's going to be your starting left tackle. Really, the only change you can make is replacing Kevin Zeitler, maybe Lloyd Cushenberry, but you would hope that the offensive line is better if Latham can be better next year. That's going to be important. So I think Cam Ward, you got to just take your lumps this year. It's not going to look great. You hope to see more improvement down the stretch, but you give number 1 overall picks quarterbacks time, and we'll see what he looks like next year. Mike McCoy did talk yesterday about some of the adjustments Cam is making, and I thought it was important to hear that. Mike McCoy said that he went through and he cut up a bunch of film of Cam and showed it to him yesterday morning, and they went through some of the things that they want to improve, whether that's mechanically. He talked about footwork and release point and target line and decision-making and everything that Cam Ward needs to be better at. And I like to hear that they're being critical in the bye week, because this is an opportunity for Cam Ward to look inward on himself. When you're getting ready for a game, pretty much all of the meetings, I'm sure, are just about how do we want to attack X team. This week, how are we attacking the Broncos? Then it's the Rams. Then it's the Colts, and so on and so forth. But the bye week gives you an opportunity to, instead of saying, all right, what are the Texans going to do for us to us this week, and how do we attack them? You can look inward and say, what do I need to do better in general to become a more consistent quarterback? So coming out of the bye week, I would love to see a more complete game from Cam Ward. We've been saying this for weeks. Maybe it's not realistic to see Cam Ward when he's kind of been thrown into the fire to make developments on the fly. But coming off this bye week, I would like to see Cam Ward show go out there and from quarter 1 through quarter 4, look like he is making strides as a quarterback and keep the flow of the offense going, because that's just something that we haven't seen so far through his rookie season.
Yeah, and I think too, Dan Orlovsky brought up a great point where with head coaches, what makes a good head coach is good players, and you don't have a lot of good players on this team.
No,
We
you do
talked
not.
about the Jets. They traded away Quinnen Williams. They traded away Sauce Gardner, but those were two very valued players, and they were able to get a good chunk of return in that. With the Titans, the only person that you could trade and get a good return is Jeffrey Simmons. Outside of that, there's not a lot. So these people that are coming quick to hate on or bash or try to dunk on Cam Ward, well, look at who he has around him. Calvin Ridley, who's your highest paid receiver and one of the highest paid players on your team, has dropped the ball left and right.
Yep.
And he's supposed to be a good veteran. So you're relying on Chim Dike. You're relying on Alec Aomaner, also traded away released Tyler Lockett. So you're relying on two rookies to be your leading pass catchers.
Yeah. And rookies struggle in the NFL. This is not anything new. Yes, there are rookies who come in and have immediate success, but for the most part, rookies struggle in the NFL. Look at the top 4 in the draft order right now. Titans are obviously number 1. Then at number 2, it's the Saints. Number 3, it's the Giants. Number 4, it's the Cleveland Browns. What do they all have in common? Titans, Saints, Giants, Browns. Not the Jets.
Titans, Saints, Giants, Browns.
Yeah, what do
they all
have?
don't have good rosters.
Correct. That's one.
Records.
They're all starting rookie quarterbacks.
All starting
right
rookie quarterbacks. That was my next one.
Yes, they are all starting rookie quarterbacks right now. And Cam Ward, you picked him number 1 overall. He should be the best of those rookie quarterbacks. Right now, Jackson Dart has played better than Cam Ward. There's no getting around that. I've never denied that Jackson Dart has played better than Cam Ward. But rookie quarterbacks struggle. You still have to believe in the traits and the ceiling for Cam Ward. That's what you drafted him for. You drafted him based on the ceiling, not based on the floor. And right now, he's been close to the floor. But he's only 9 games in. And I like to hear at the very least, this coaching staff, I don't believe in them overall, and I'm very excited that a new staff is going to be coming in to work with Cam Ward after this year. But Mike McCoy, at least talking about the adjustments that they're making and at least trying to get more out of Cam Ward after the bye week is going to be important. I think that this team needs to show improvement this week on offense. At least from the last time you played the Texans, you scored no points. So yes, any points would be an improvement. But this Texans defense ate your lunch last time out. I mean, Derek Stingley had an interception. Daniil Hunter had 2 sacks. Will Anderson made plays. This defense crushed you last time. I want to see the Titans make some adjustments, be better on third downs, be better on first downs, be less predictable on the offensive side, and let Cam Ward make some plays. This is a game where you might be seeing a backup quarterback on the other side. I would expect CJ Stroud to be back, but we haven't heard definitively yet. The Texans aren't a great team, but they do have a lot of players on defense, and the Titans are coming off a long rest where they've had the opportunity to change some things up. You've got to be better. Be competitive in this game. You don't have to win, but be competitive. I heard yesterday in the press conference with Mike McCoy, it might have been Terry McCormick who asked the question. He said that you've gone 20 trips across the 50 with no points this year. That is crazy. That to go across midfield 20 different times and come across with no points in 9 games. That's twice a game that you're crossing midfield and not even getting a field goal. Sustaining drives has been the name of the game for the Titans. And you have to be able to put yourself in more attainable third downs and convert those third downs when you get into 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2. Because even when the Titans have stayed ahead of the sticks, they've struggled to move the chains. You look back at the Colts game when they had that 3rd and 1 and ran it into the line and then punted from the 43. You got to sustain drives better. And the way Mike McCoy talked about it, he said that's been the focus during the bye week, is being better on third downs and working on Cam Ward through some of the issues that he's had. Let's see what works out on Sunday. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll continue to talk Titans on the other side. We'll take your texts and calls. Our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly alongside you on this Tuesday. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, talking Titans in the final hour of the show. Chase and Big Joe are coming up at the top of the hour once again from Key West as they make their pilgrimage down there. Had a lot of fun yesterday. We talked about it earlier that apparently they did stand-up comedy last night, so make sure you stay tuned for Chase and Big Joe. I would love to hear the aftermath from that.
Well, I'm actually producing the first hour of their show
There you
today,
go.
so I plan on asking them about it, how it went, who bombed, if there are any videos. There better be some videos.
I would make a guess that their question of the day is going to be something to do with their comedy sets last night. So excited to hear that again. They're down in Key West. That's coming up at noon. Talking Titans, coming up on their second game against Houston this season off the bye week. And the offensive line is going to be a focal point for this team this weekend because you've got two legit edge rushers on this Texans defense in Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Danielle Hunter, I didn't even realize this until yesterday when I looked it up. He had 3.5 sacks on Sunday against Jacksonville. He
was
Trevor
probably
Lawrence.
the best player in the NFL last week. Danielle Hunter. He was incredible. Couldn't be stopped. Him and Will McDonald for the Jets. Will McDonald had 4 sacks.
Danielle Hunter may be one of the most underrated players over the last 5 years in the NFL. What he did with the Vikings when he was there and now with the Texans, he doesn't get talked about enough as one of the elite pass rushers across the league. He was unstoppable on Sunday. So the Titans tackles are going to be tested, certainly, on Sunday against Houston. And Mike McCoy talked about this yesterday and said that at the very least, those guys have shown that they're willing to work through some of the struggles. They're not being stubborn and making excuses. They're coming up and saying, hey, I got beat. Here's why and what I need to get better at. You don't have Bill Callahan anymore. You've had to go to your assistant offensive line coaches, which I'm sure was a little bit of a hiccup for these guys, but they struggled against Hunter and Anderson last time out. You've got to be better this time and give Cam Ward a chance to make some plays. Dustin from Hopkinsville on the text line says, I'd like to see 3 to 5 run plays from Cam for 15 to 30 positive yards running. And I'll get to the rest of your text, Dustin. But that's also something that Mike McCoy mentioned yesterday was Cam Ward, when he gets out of the pocket, it feels like there are 2 things going through his mind. It's make a play downfield, and throw it away. Those are the only 2 things going through Cam Ward's mind. Mike McCoy made the point yesterday of wanting Cam Ward to be more willing to tuck it down and run with it. And I like that because even though Cam Ward isn't this dynamic runner, again, he's not Josh Allen, he's not Lamar Jackson, but he can run if he has to run. He has the athletic ability. He is not a statue in the pocket. And I would like to see him being able to take what the defense gives him more often. There have been times this year when he's on the run, he's trying to make a play downfield, and he tries to throw it on the run into tight coverage instead of just taking the 5 yards that he can get if he just tucks it and dips out of bounds. He doesn't have to be Lamar Jackson, but being more of a willing runner who can take those short gains instead of trying to make plays downfield, which can lead to turnovers, or just dirting it, which there are times when you do have to just dirt it and throw it into the seats. But there are also times this year where Cam Ward has had the opportunity to just take off and get a couple of yards, and it feels like he's a little hesitant to do that because he's so hyper-focused on trying to make a play with his arm.
And Cam Ward is not a dual threat, but he can pick up a first down if need be. And a lot of these times when he escapes the pocket, he's running to throw, not running to run, which is what you would want in a pure passing quarterback. But there are also sometimes you just have to know that that mental clock has to go off, that internal clock, like, okay, I have to get out of here. And let me try not to make a play. Let me just pick up the first down and keep the sticks moving. That's that next step in the progression of Cam Ward. And I think about that Colts game. He had an opportunity. He was this close to the line of scrimmage, throws back across his body, incomplete on 3rd down.
Right.
Here comes the punt unit. If you run, you easily pick up the first down.
Yes, you are 100% right when you say that he runs to throw. He has great escapability. You look at his movement in the pocket and the ability to feel pressure and get out of there. He knows how to do that. Look at the first Texans game. The first drive of the game when he rolls right, makes Will Anderson miss, and throws it back to Alec Iamaner downfield. Like, that's what Cam Ward can do. He is athletic enough to make people miss in the pocket, but that's the type of play that he's trying to make, is get outside the pocket and then find somebody in a backyard football game downfield. That works sometimes, but it doesn't work all the time. And odds are you're going to have more success if you look to run the ball once you have an opportunity than trying to force it down the field. Because yes, Cam Ward has the ability to make some ridiculous throws on the run, but I do have to be able to, you have to be able to take what the defense gives you. And if they're sitting back in coverage while you're outside the pocket, take your 5 yards and get out of bounds. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, I'd like to see 35 yards from Helm, 60 yards to Chig, 35 to 50 yards on 4 to 5 targets for Iamaner, and so on and so forth. He says, do it all in hurry up offense, lots of RPOs, and Spears 35 yards receiving. That's it's a good point. The hurry up offense, I don't know. I was kind of in that boat too of tempo, 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 and I think there's time for tempo. But Nick Holtz made a good point when asked about that of like, if you go in tempo all the time, that hurts your defense. Like, if your defense is out there for a while, gets off the field, maybe holds the Texans to a field goal this weekend, and you come out and go tempo and go 3 and out in 13 seconds of game time, that doesn't help your team. You have to be able to move the football in order to earn the hurry up offense.
That's one of the biggest criticisms of Tennessee's offense, the Vols, when it doesn't work, is they go so fast. And when that offense is operating at the level that Josh Heupel wants to, if you go 3 and out, it's less than a minute off the clock.
Right.
So that's not exactly, and you get a lot of backlash if it doesn't work that way. So that is going to be the caveat to that whole situation.
Yeah, that's something I hadn't really thought about when Nick Holtz brought it up because, on the surface, you see Cam Ward in that Cardinals game when they had to go into hurry up offense and move the football and the success that he had. And you're like, why not just do that all the time? There is a reason you don't do that all the time because you can't lose time of possession 47-13 and have a chance to win the football game. So you got to earn the opportunity to do tempo, but I do think the Titans should use more of it when they do get a first down or two on a drive, and we'll see if they can do that this Sunday. Dustin from Hopkinsville also says, let the strep talk emerge once again. I can't believe they haven't brought his butt up just for Cam alone. It's pure ignorance to me. And we had the Restrepo conversation yesterday of, are we at the point where you might as well? Probably. I think there's really nothing to lose by giving him a chance, but teams tell you what they think of players by how they use them. If you've got a player who's not getting on the field at all in a game, that's how the coaching staff feels about him. If you've got a guy who's only on scout team and on the practice squad, and you've elevated Mason Kinsey and James Prochet over him in back-to-back weeks, that's how that team feels about him. So I get it. Xavier Restrepo, it's the unknown. It's the mystery box, right? You know what Mason Kinsey is, so you don't want to see Mason Kinsey, but Xavier Restrepo may not be any better than Mason Kinsey. It's just the mystery box of we haven't seen him yet, so we don't quite know what his ceiling and his floor is.
I understand fans want to see Xavier Restrepo. He had a phenomenal college career. I get it. But this team bringing up Mason Kinsey, promoting him to the active roster, bringing up James Prochet, tells you what Xavier Restrepo has done in practice and where they view him on the depth chart. So I believe at some point, maybe closer towards the end of the season, we will see Xavier Restrepo in a game. But now's not the time.
They're going to give him a chance. There's no reason not to give him a chance, especially as you get later into the year. But I don't think it'll be this week. I'll put it out there. I don't think it'll be this week. I would say wait till December, and maybe the Titans will start thinking about bringing Restrepo up. I could be wrong, but my guess would be they're going to go a few more weeks with the group that they have, especially if Calvin Ridley is back healthy. I think they want to get a look at what that trio of Ridley, Ironman, or DK looks like when they're getting most of the snaps. Like before Ridley got hurt, Tyler Lockett was still on the team. DK was being used sparingly on offense, pre-Brian Callahan being fired. I think you're going to see more of a Ridley, Ironman, or DK trio, and they're going to see what that brings before they elect to, break the glass and take Xavier Restrepo off the practice squad and see what he can bring. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your thoughts on the Titans. One more thought. Tajay Spears, I saw Dustin brought him up too. I want him to outsnap Tony Pollard this week. And it's nothing against Tony Pollard. I like Tony Pollard. He's consistent, and he should get touches for sure. But you want to know what Tajay Spears can do for you. Can he be a weapon that you can rely on moving forward? You also might get Kalel Mullings back soon, as his practice window was open. I'd like to see what he can do, maybe in a goal line situation once he gets healthy. Tony Pollard's not going to be on this team next year. The longer you wait to start phasing him out, I think the harder it's going to be to tell what you need at running back moving forward. I'd like to see more Tajay Spears this week. And once Mullings gets healthy, I'd like to see him start getting some touches
I'd
as
love
well.
to see Khalil. I hate that we haven't had the opportunity to see him yet, but I think this is maybe the reason why Tony Pollard was not traded at the deadline, because Mullings is hurt.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is maybe they didn't want to make it just Tajay Spears in that room. Do they have any other running backs on the roster right now?
Chestnut.
Oh, right, Julius Chestnut. He never goes away.
he just keeps sticking
I
around.
mean, him and Mason Kinsey, they'll be here after the nuclear war ends. They don't go anywhere. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you have thoughts, we'll get to your text coming up next. Also, big news in the NFL yesterday that could affect the AFC playoff picture. We'll get to it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly alongside you. Tomorrow, Corey Curtis is with us for the full show. Excited after a week off to have Corey back. We'll get into all the headlines around the Titans and college football. Big weekend on News 2, I believe. Are all three games that Vandy fans need to be watching on News 2 this weekend? That'll be something to talk to Corey about.
That wouldn't surprise me. ABC's been killing it with their games this year.
I believe they are. So there we go. If you are a Vanderbilt fan, you don't have to change it off News 2 this weekend. All three of the games that you need to be paying attention to, Notre Dame, Pitt, Oklahoma, Alabama, and Texas, Georgia, are all on ABC. So Vandy, significant rooting interest in those games. So we'll have to talk with Corey about that tomorrow when he's back with us. Getting away from the Titans, staying in the NFL. News yesterday, Joe Burrow's practice window opened. He has not played since week 2. Does that change things in the AFC? The AFC North is a mystery right now because the Steelers are in the lead, but does anybody feel good about the Steelers winning that division with the way that they've played lately?
With
Probably
the way
not.
they played Sunday night, absolutely.
Right. Sunday
not.
night was bad. They did beat the Colts 2 weeks ago, so give them credit for that. But I don't really see them holding off Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow if they're coming back. Like, Lamar's gotten the Ravens back to 3 straight wins. They're 4-5 now. They still play the Steelers twice. And you look at the Bengals, Joe Flacco can maybe keep you afloat this week. It's a huge game because the Bengals play the Steelers. If you lose this game, it becomes less and less likely that you have any chance to come back because you'd be, 3 games back at that point with 8 to go. It does. The math doesn't math if you lose to Pittsburgh this weekend. But if you can beat the Steelers, which it's not impossible with Joe Flacco. Flacco has shown enough that maybe you can stay afloat and beat Pittsburgh this week. But I don't think you can stay afloat if you don't get Joe Burrow back by next week. The next 3 games for the Bengals after the Steelers this weekend, Patriots, Ravens, Bills. Sorry, Joe Flacco, he's an ageless wonder, but he is not going to be able to beat those 3 teams with the team that they have currently constructed around them. You need Joe Burrow back. It's a very similar situation to last year of the Bengals are in a hole. Can Joe Burrow dig them out of it and get them to the playoffs? Last year, the answer was no. It's very interesting. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to. But this is earlier than I thought Burrow's practice window was going to be open. I will say that. They said, 12 weeks off the top, 3 months, right about that?
I think they originally said somewhere around Christmas time.
Yeah.
So the fact that he's returning, they're trying to get him back by Thanksgiving
right.
is very, very wild to me.
You're in early November and you have an opportunity to maybe get him back. I don't know if you rush him back, but this team needs him because the schedule isn't going to be easy. You've already beaten the Steelers once. So if you beat them this weekend, that gives you the tiebreaker over Pittsburgh, which is huge. But the rest of your schedule, the end gets easier. You play Dolphins, Cardinals, Browns at the end of the year. So if the Bengals are 500 heading into that stretch, they've got a shot at the playoffs. That means you need to win 4 of the rest of your games against the Steelers, Patriots, Ravens, Bills, Ravens. So 5 of those games, you got to win 4 of them. That's not going to happen with Joe Flacco, but way earlier for Joe Burrow to be back. Dustin from Hopkinsville says, we get the Unk Bowl again this weekend. Yes, you do. Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco.
Hey, the Unk Bowl was great last time they played.
It was 33-31. They went back and forth. So could be a fun one. Dustin also says, wonder if Joe Burrow has peaked. Injury prone, went to 1 Super Bowl, can't play 10 games a year now. I don't know about that.
Injury prone thing accusation is correct.
Right.
But I mean, he's one of the most talented quarterbacks in the NFL.
I do agree about the injury prone thing, but look at his stats aren't everything, but look at his numbers from last year. Yes, they didn't make the playoffs because that defense was atrocious.
Gosh, they were terrible.
But last year, 70% completion percentage, 4,900 yards, 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He scored 2 more times on the ground. So 45 total touchdowns, nearly 5,000 yards, and less than 10 interceptions on 70% completion. I believe in Joe Burrow when he gets back healthy, but you are right, Dustin, about the injuries. How many times has he played a full season? 3 out of his 6 years. That can't happen if you're going to be a franchise quarterback, right? Like, how many games has Patrick Mahomes missed in his career?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
How many, Josh Allen
I don't
has
know if
never
he's
missed a start, right?
Yeah, I don't know if Mahomes. The only time that I can remember Mahomes missing a start is when they locked up the 1 seed in the AFC, and then Carson Wentz or the backup would come in and play.
So he's played 16 games the last 2 years.
Oh, he did have an ankle injury.
Yeah, he had the ankle in the playoffs a couple of years ago. But in every year that he has started, he has played at least 14 games. 2019, he only played 14, so he missed 2. But he's gone 16, 14, 15, 17, 17, 16, 16. So Patrick Mahomes has been very consistent on playing almost every single game. Josh Allen has the start streak that he's on that I think he's played in every single game in his career.
Yeah, so that's why when we're talking about the elite quarterbacks in the AFC, when Burrow was healthy, I put him at 2, but since he's not, I mean, it's a tough argument. I understand Josh Allen or Lamar or whatever, but since Joe Burrow is not healthy, it's hard to make the argument that he's better than any one of those guys. So
I think Burrow's for sure top 5, but you're right that when he is healthy, look at what he's done in the playoffs. Like, he's the only quarterback not named Tom Brady to beat Patrick Mahomes in the AFC playoffs.
And he's been to a Super Bowl, something that Lamar and Josh Allen didn't do. And he did that with the 30th ranked offensive line.
Right. And beat Kansas City in Arrowhead to get there. He also beat Josh Allen in Buffalo a couple of years ago in the playoffs to get back to an AFC championship.
That wasn't the same year.
No, it was the next year.
Yeah, it was the next year.
He
beat both of them in the playoffs.
That was the year that the rumors were going on about Josh Allen and his girlfriend breaking up, and like Stephon Diggs was mad at him on the sideline. That was that game.
Yeah, I remember that.
But you're right that when he's healthy, it's hard not to put him right in that top conversation with Allen and Jackson as the next behind Mahomes. But he hasn't played a full season in half of his years in the league. He had the knee injury in his rookie season, which it's a little fluky, but he missed 7 games in 2023, and he's going to miss at least 7 this year, probably more. It's a very tough argument to make of, is he considered in that top tier when his team isn't making the playoffs, whether that's him being injured or the team around him not being good enough like last year. But they need him back ASAP because that schedule over the next month is brutal.
Yeah. I think with how bad the AFC North is right now, I don't think anything is going to be completely out of the picture except the Browns. But with the upcoming schedule they have, I don't think Joe Flacco is going to keep them. And that's no slight to Joe Flacco, but that defense is terrible.
Is bad. And as 2438 makes a good point here, that the O-line has not been good enough for this team.
And they haven't for a while. And that's why I think Zach Taylor, depending on how this year goes, is probably going to get fired.
Yeah, I think that they need a new voice in that room.
It still hasn't fixed itself. And you still have Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is basically leading the team anyway. So.
Right. And as I said earlier, I think I took you to a Super Bowl leash is starting to run out. Like, going to
100%.
a Super Bowl does get you some years if you're
100%.
a head coach. Like that, it does. And Zach Taylor might have been gone 2 years ago if they hadn't gone to the Super Bowl. But guess what? He didn't. So it's an interesting spot for the Bengals, especially because they are known for being one of the cheaper organizations in the league. And right now they're spending way more because you have Burrow and Higgins and Chase, but they also don't have much else besides that. Trey Hendrickson's going to be gone after this year. Shamar Stewart is
whole thing
is looking like the bust that kind of everyone thought he was going to be.
They paid for Orlando Brown, and
right.
He hasn't played well.
That's the one investment that they've made in the offensive line, was going and getting Orlando Brown, and he's not worth the money that he's got. So the Bengals are in a tough spot.
And they haven't drafted well either. I mean, they have Burrow, and they have Jamar, and they have T.
Yeah.
But offensively, they took Jackson Carman, who was an offensive lineman in the second round. He's not good. They took Shamar Stewart. Shamar Stewart Still early, but hasn't shown that he was worth that first round pick. So
Shamar Stewart's stats are so funny.
the secondary, they drafted a lot of those secondary guys, and
Yeah.
they're terrible too.
Shamar Stewart this season has 6 tackles, no sacks, no tackles for loss. That is not what you want out of your first overall pick quarterback. But who could have guessed when he had 4.5 sacks over 3 years at Texas A&M?
And he was one of those guys that was probably viewed as a developmental prospect. But again, I asked the same question when Justin Fields went to the Jets. He was on the last leg of his career. Do you trust the New York Jets to get it right at quarterback?
Yeah.
The answer is no. Do you trust the Cincinnati Bengals to develop a developmental guy?
Yeah.
The answer is no, especially on defense.
The Bengals, they found the franchise quarterback, and they just can't seem to get anything else right around him. Wes in Clarksville says, I still don't think Burrow is that great. He got that Super Bowl hand wrapped to him by the Tannehill and the Titans, and that is fair. The Titans, that's.
But then he beat the Chiefs.
He did beat He beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead the next week.
Now that argument is running dry because, that was so long ago and he hasn't been healthy since. He already has 2 Comeback Player of the Year awards.
Yeah. And maybe gets another one next year.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, 70% completion percentage, 4,900 yards, 43 touchdowns, 9 picks last year. It's hard not to look at that and say that dude is the elite of the elite when it comes to quarterbacks. But if he can't stay on the field,
right,
and that team around him, if he has to win every game 42-40, it's just not going to work out.
And how much of the injury issue is on the offensive line?
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder the same thing. I have no doubt that Jim Harbaugh is going to get the offensive line right in LA. They lost both of their tackles, which is very unfortunate. But at the rate that Justin Herbert's been getting hit this year, it honestly scares me.
Yeah, it is tough to develop a quarterback even when he is good. And right now the Bengals are hoping that they can get their star quarterback back out there as soon as possible. His practice window opened yesterday. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Last call for phones. We will get to them coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Final segment on this Tuesday. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly. We will give way to Chasing Big Joe coming up at the top of the hour down in Key West. Excited for that. Couple of texts I wanted to get to. I saved this one from Wes in Hermitage from earlier, hoping we could get to it. He says, Jake, I'm going to call you shortly about Cam Ward and Titans. He said he got caught up with work. But he has to ask the question, if the draft was today and Cam was coming out in April with this group, where would he rank with the quarterbacks scheduled to hit the draft this year? And that's the point that I've been trying to make when we get all these texts about saying you should have traded down is, well, looking at where you are right now, you might have a chance to trade down this year. And you already drafted your franchise quarterback and get a year of development for him, a year of reps so he can hit the ground running next year. And if Cam Ward was coming out in this draft as a prospect with what we knew about him coming out of Miami, he would be just as high as Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza, I think. I think it would be those three who were in a group, and we'd see who separates themselves in March and April as you go through the draft process. But Cam Ward would still be in that top conversation among quarterbacks because there is no generational prospect in this draft. And Cam Ward was a surefire first-round pick quarterback, which you take when you need a quarterback.
And two, he has two things that Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza don't have. The first being he has more starts in college, and that is very valuable to NFL draft scouts. And secondly, Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza can absolutely rip the ball, and they can make NFL-level throws all over the field. But Cam Ward adds the dimension to where if something breaks down, he can make something out of nothing.
Backyard football
that I have not seen out of Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson. Now, that's not to slight them because the way they're playing football right now is very, very high level. But Cam Ward has that aspect that those two don't have.
I would argue Cam Ward has a higher ceiling than both of them based on what he can do when things break down. Like you said, the arm talent, the escapability, and the backyard football. I think Cam Ward has a higher ceiling than Simpson and Mendoza. They might have a higher floor. But when the floor is a bust no matter what, then I don't know if you don't draft quarterbacks based on floor. You draft them based on ceiling. And I think Cam Ward, if you look at the draft class coming out this year and Cam Ward, I think there's a good chance that Ward would go number one again. Maybe not. I could be wrong. I don't know what goes on in these NFL front offices, but just based on what we knew about Cam Ward as a prospect and what we know about Mendoza and Simpson, who are currently listed as the top two quarterbacks by most accounts in this year's draft, I think Ward would be right up there, if not going number one again. Adam in Portland says, knowing all we know about Brian Callahan, would you rather have Joe Burrow as your quarterback, but Brian Callahan has to be your head coach, or Cam Ward as your quarterback and Sean McVay would be your head coach? It's a good question because
repeat that one more time.
Would you rather have Joe Burrow as your quarterback, but Brian Callahan has to be your head coach, or Cam Ward as your quarterback and Sean McVay as your head coach?
I'm going with the second because I am a huge Sean McVay fan.
I really like McVay too. My hesitation is that I think Burrow has already been in that offense and has shown that he can succeed.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Now that I think about it, that is really tough because Joe Burrow was basically running the Bengals.
Right. Like Callahan was there. I know he wasn't calling plays, and there's a lot more of head coaching stuff that Brian Callahan failed at, but I don't know. Adam says, knowing all we know about Brian Callahan, I would have to pick Cam Ward. I believe Callahan didn't have jack to do with Joe going to the Super Bowl. And I agree with that, but I'm saying that I think from what we've seen right now, Joe Burrow, I think would be fine in that system. I don't know about that, but I also think Cam Ward with Sean McVay would be pretty good too. I don't know. That's a good question from Adam in Portland.
There are a lot of similarities to Matthew Stafford's game and Cam Ward's game, and I don't know if you had the chance to watch the Rams versus the 49ers on Sunday afternoon, but their offense is just beautiful.
Matthew Stafford in the last 6 games, 20 touchdowns, no picks.
Yeah. It is beautiful. It gives me goosebumps.
You know, I'm kind of rethinking my decision. I think I would go Ward and McVay. I think Sean McVay has proven that he can develop quarterbacks. I mean, Jared Goff if you're here's another example. If you're looking for a quarterback who looked horrible in his rookie season and then found a head coach who could develop him, Jared Goff. Remember what Jared Goff looked like under Jeff Fisher in his first year. And we love Jeff Fisher, but Jared Goff was not good. And that's a large reason why the Titans got the number 5 overall pick from the Rams that year, was because Jared Goff was not good. And then Sean McVay comes in and Jared Goff goes to a Super Bowl. So, yeah, I'm rethinking it. I think Sean McVay could turn almost anybody into a good quarterback, and Cam Ward has the talent that I think McVay would thrive in that situation.
I agree 100%. It's just watching that offense. That's typical Sean McVay. That is the peak of what Sean McVay is able to do on offense. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, that's a good question from Adam in Portland. And the Titans are looking to find that coach that can unlock Cam Ward, because Ward, I hate to say it, but it's kind of a wasted year for Ward this season. The reps are important, and getting adjusted to the NFL speed and the NFL game is important, but you have to learn a new system, which he's done before, and you're going to get new coaching from whoever comes in. I really hope that they can end up finding the right guy. This is the most important decision that they've had to make. As we talked about at the beginning of the show, let's hope Matt LaFleur comes loose, because I would be very happy if Matt LaFleur ended up being the head coach here. Adam in Portland says, I like both of your answers. I just think that no matter how awesome Joe Burrow is, he's going to have to find somebody who can protect him. And Brian Callahan and his buddy Zach Taylor have both failed at that extensively. It's true. And that's why I think Zach Taylor, if the Bengals don't turn this around quickly, whether Burrow's back or not, I think that that Zach Taylor could be shown the door relatively quickly. Again, it's not been good for the Bengals the last couple of years, especially on the defensive side of the ball. That'll just about wrap things up for us here on the program. Appreciate everybody who has interacted with us today. Lots of great stuff on the phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Big thanks to Darren Ambrose from Vandy Soccer for chiming in and coming on the show. Great job by his team over the last couple months, and excited to see them in the NCAA tournament. Tomorrow, Corey Curtis from News 2 is with us for the full show. We'll react to the college football playoff rankings that come out tonight and talk plenty of Titans. That's tomorrow. Coming up next, Chase and Big Joe live from Key West here on 102.5 The Game.